three. Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no! Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. So, today we're going to take a closer look at the Myoko. We can see it here on our screen. A few of you have asked, how do you actually play the Myoko effectively? Because I'm always ranting about it, how it's an excellent ship, and it is an excellent ship. So, we will take a look at some gameplay here, but before we do, I wanted to just take an overall look at the Myoko, and in terms of, modules and what I have on the ship, just to give you guys a general sense as well. So here's the Myoko here, so we're going to take a look at modules and upgrades I have for her. So obviously, she's fully upgraded. Yeah, I've had it for a while. Now, I don't use any like premium consumables on the ship. I don't see the point. It's at tier 7. I'm running this to make money, not to cost me gold or money. In terms of upgrades, so I was taking a look at the upgrades before I started recording the video here, and I didn't make the best choice in terms of upgrade. There's one specifically, but anyway, we'll get to that. So, in terms of the first upgrade, yeah, main battery modification 1 is what you want. Less risk of magazine detonation, less risk of your main turrets becoming incapacitated, and less repair time as well if they should become incapacitated. So that's what I've got on the Myoko in terms of the first module. And the reason for it as well is, on this ship, your guns are the main armament, right? You don't try to upgrade the torpedoes on the ship. It's just useless. Don't bother. Your torpedoes are great. I love the torpedoes on the Myoko. Don't get me wrong, but they're really defensive. And if you want to outfit the ship for offensive maneuvers, yeah, your main battery are your primary armament. So then, to complement my main battery modification 1, I've got my fire control system modification 1. So this increases my accuracy. Accuracy is really important for me, as I like getting citadels, so that is why I have the accuracy modification on there. Could have went for main battery modification 2, but I don't like the idea of I just don't understand the wording here. It's an increase to loading time, but my traverse speed will increase. I'm not sure, but anyway, that I don't want it. It's not useful on this ship at all. I don't believe anyway. When you look at the fact that you can also have accuracy increase. The accuracy is really what you want for that second modification. Now, this third one here, this is where I made a mistake. So I have damage control system modification 1, right? Yeah, it's not really that useful. I would have went, and if you guys don't have your modules purchased yet, I would have went either propulsion or steering gear. Your own preference there as to which one you would prefer. But that's what I would have went, and it's just because the damage control modification 1 does so little in terms of, minus 3%, minus 5%, so it's debatable, and I'm just not willing to spend the credits to actually get the modification I want, but that's the one I have on there. And then the last one, damage control system modification 2. So I do like this one. This one I do like having the ship minus 15 to flooding recovery, and extinguishing fires 15%. So that's great. In terms of propulsion modification, yeah, I don't really see the need, because the Myoko is fast maneuverable as it is, at least I find anyway, so I don't see the need to increase or decrease the amount of time it takes to get to full power. Same thing when it goes to steering gear modification. The rudder is really responsive on this ship, so I don't see the need to have this on here. Obviously it's your own personal preference, but those are the ones that I have on my Myoko. Yeah, it's just the way I were to play it. And like I say, the only thing I would change on this list here is I would probably get either propulsion or steering gear, one of those, if I wasn't saving money for other things. So that's what I've got on the Myoko now, just in terms of the exterior. In terms of flags and whatnot that you might want to run, the detonation flag isn't a bad idea, but I don't get detonated in my Myoko very often, so I don't really see the need. The money flag, yeah, I see this kind of as a waste, because the ship on its own will make money well enough anyway, as long as you do fairly decently in the battle, and I tend to do fairly decently in this Myoko pretty consistently. And I mean, if you are trying to grind your way through to the Mogami, then obviously you want your Confederate flags on there. And yeah, this one reduced repair cost. Again, at tier 7, I don't see the need because it typically makes money. It is nice having the Sierra mic on there every now and then. I do enjoy putting on there just for the extra bit of speed. Gives you that little extra bit of maneuverability as well. So it is nice little option now and then, but I'm saving those flags. In terms of camouflage, yeah. Obviously I am going to take the type 2 so that minus 4% accuracy to enemy shells. Because you do want to keep in mind with this Myoko, I mean, something that I always try and keep in mind is she's fairly flat on the sides, right? I know any ship can say that, but she's also a long ship as well. So, you know, it's really easy to get citadels, for enemies to get citadels on you, so you want to kind of keep that in mind and really not expose any broadsides, or limit it as much as you can, because it's just, it'll take you out. It'll take you out, and it might even ruin your opinion of the ship as well. But luckily, I've been able to maneuver around enough that citadels for me aren't such an issue. It still does happen, but it's not that big of an issue for me right now. Anyway, like I said, I just wanted to take a general look at the ship here as well, show you what I've got on it. Actually, I do want to jump over the commander before we wrap it up here. So the commander, in terms of commander abilities and what I like having on my Myoko, obviously, yes, I want my basic fire training and I want the repair. Situational awareness is nice to have on a cruiser. It really is, especially, you know, if you're trying to sneak around and whatnot. I don't have it on the Myoko right now, and the reason for it is that with my commanders, they get bumped up one ship at a time as I move up my Japanese cruiser line. So this Myoko commander is actually going to end up being the commander on the Ibuki. My commander on the Mogami, I've retrained that commander. He's staying on the Mogami. That's where he is. But anyway, this guy will eventually end up on the Ibuki. So yes, I want my basic survivability. I do take the turret traverse speed, expert marksman. Yeah, that's important. In terms of, yeah, fire prevention, it would be good. But I really like this high alert is good because, yeah, you know, you are going to be taking some damage, and especially for fires and whatnot. But at the tier 8 to 9 to 10 rank, Superintendent on a cruiser, I really like having this ability. And you can debate it, yeah, you know, you don't necessarily want that extra scout plane, but the extra charge on your repair, on the repair party, is just, it's too critical for me not to have. So I definitely want Superintendent, and will be getting Superintendent as soon as the commander gets one more skill here. And then moving to tier 4, Last Stand, yeah, that's what I'm going to want. I was considering advanced firing training, but again, this is going to be on the Ibuki, and these Japanese cruisers don't benefit from this that much. It's really going to affect your secondary armament, so it'd be better to have on maybe a battleship than a cruiser. And yeah, I don't really, yeah, demolition expert, that's alright, but I'm not really looking to set fires that often in my Japanese cruisers. It's more about citadels and armor piercing for me. Tier 5, I haven't really figured this one out yet. I'm still looking around. I mean, obviously there are ones that you can rule out right away, but there are other ones that have really nice abilities here as well. So that is how, you know, I've got my commander sort of worked right now. It's not ideal, I know it's not ideal, but this is how I have it at this time, and I'm just not willing to spend the gold to retrain that guy. So anyway, yes, general look at the Myoko, how I've got her set up, and how I you know, have my commander, my upgrades, what I do with them, in terms of keeping them on the ship. So we will take a look at that, but now I also wanted to jump into an actual game in the Myoko, so we can take a look at this game, and how, you know, I play the Myoko and how you guys can play the Myoko, just to help better yourselves. And what I like about the match we're about to see as well is, you know, it's not just this phenomenal match where I get all these crazy kills. It's a typical Myoko battle, and we get to see the use of all the weaponry on the ship as well. So we're going to jump over to that. Alright, so here we are in the battle, Land of Fire, in the Myōkō, and just taking a look at what the enemy team has and we have. You can see it's, for the most part, a Tier 7 battle. There's 1 or 2 Tier 8s here, and a lot of Tier 6s actually. So we're well positioned in this battle to do fairly well. So what I'm going to be doing here is, because it's Land of Fire and because of where I've spawned, I'm actually going to go and help my destroyers take C. So with that sort of mindset, I know right away that I'm going to be coming across other enemy destroyers, because you'll notice that the enemy team is 3 of them. There's bound to be at least one that's going to go over to the C-cap point. So I've loaded high explosive, and I'm just going to keep the high explosive loaded for right now. That's another thing, I mean, on all cruisers that you want to keep in mind, right, is how easy it is to switch ammo types. Try and keep that in mind. Don't just shoot one ammo type the entire round. It's best if you do mix it up depending on the targets you have and the situations that you're presented with. So immediately, you know, I'm not going to drive straight in onto the target. Because I'm in the Myōkō and because of the way that the front turrets are worked, you know, they're all in line and the weird third one there. If you drive at a bit of an angle, you can usually get all of your turrets focused in on one target. And so this is typically what I do here. You can see I'm in sort of a shallow angle towards C, and not all of my guns are going to be able to fire where I'm pointing right now. But to remedy that, all I have to do is simply turn a little to the port, swing around the rear guns, and then I can get all of my turrets fired in on the target, and then immediately turn to the starboard and close up the broadside that I presented there very shortly. So that is why, you know, I drive on angles when I'm in the Myōkō. Whenever I have a target that you know, either an enemy ship that I'm attacking or a point that I'm approaching, like now, I'll approach it at an angle to make the best use of the turrets on the Myōkō, the way they're positioned. Generally speaking as well, the way the turrets are positioned on the Myōkō, you can generally get at least 3 guns on a target at any one time. If you're still waiting for other guns to turn. Because the turret traverse on this Myōkō, it is slow. It used to be a lot better, but they changed it, they nerfed it. So it is a bit slower now, but I still like it, I'm still used to it. So you can see I'm starting to come across some enemies. So here you can see exactly what I talked about. Right, I drive at the angle, now I'm shooting at an enemy ship. So then I just turn all the way to port. I do present a broadside in doing so, fire off my guns, and then I'm going to swing it back to the starboard, or you can just continue your turn to the port, just to get rid of the broadside that you presented, right? I'm keeping high explosive loaded for right now because I still haven't spotted, well, I haven't spotted the destroyers. I can see them on the minimap, and there's one now. But I'm not really in a position to actually get shots in on them, but I do want to keep myself available to take those shots in case the destroyers present themselves. But you know, moving in and you know, I'm focusing in on this Cleveland. Yeah, I'm switching it over to armor piercing. On your Myōkō, when you are coming across any target that is not a destroyer or a... No, let me reword that. When you come across any enemy cruiser, you are going to be firing armor piercing at that enemy cruiser. It's going to be the most effective thing for you to do with the guns on the Myōkō, given the, you know, just they're really great guns. They do decent damage, they have great penetration. I like the reload on them. The reload for me is convenient as well. You'll notice I completed my whole turn here. Now my turrets are, you know, all faced where I need them to go, or at least 3 of them are. Sorry, the front 2 are still swinging around. And I'm able to get those shots into the Cleveland and hopefully finish them off, which is, you know, ideally what you want to do here. But getting back to the turret rotation speed on the Myōkō, like when I'm doing these maneuvers, you know, turning hard to starboard, hard to port, trying to avoid enemies like that, generally speaking, I know where I want to end up and where I need my turrets to be pointing. So I'm planning this in ahead. Sometimes I'll lock them in place so that when I finish my maneuvers I know where I want them to be. Other times I know that the stern guns on the Myōkō, the stern cannons, usually keep up with what I'm maneuvering about, and so I'll maneuver around and maneuver with the guns, if that makes any sense. I'll maneuver like with the guns to make sure that when I get out of the maneuvers, I can at least fire 2 of my stern guns, and generally speaking, you'll have that third cannon as well, or third turret as well, that'll be able to fire as well. So that's how I use them when I'm maneuvering around. You can see even now I'm in a pretty tight maneuver, right? Well, I'm just tracking my rear cannons to follow with me in case I can get any shots on the enemies over there. I'm not necessarily concerned about the front turrets, the front 3 turrets. Those are, yeah, they're great, and it's lovely when you have them available, but in terms, like when you're maneuvering around in this Myōkō, I find anyway that it's the rear turrets that I make the most use of. Generally, I'm always waiting on the front turrets to get into position. But that being said, generally speaking, when you're maneuvering around in your Myōkō, like this as well, and you're firing as well, you'll find, or at least I have found, that the reload speed on this ship is pretty adequate. You know, even though I'm maneuvering around, I'm waiting for my turrets to get back into position, and I can't fire anyway, so it doesn't matter that I'm not reloaded. By the time that my turrets are in position to fire, I'm reloaded and I can take the shot that I need to take. So, you know, all that being said, I like the turret rotation speed on the Myōkō. It does make it a little more challenging, but I enjoy that challenge. It's not, I don't want to just be handed victory every time, right? I actually want to be able to fight for it here. So you can see I have switched back over to high explosive because there's a destroyer off my starboard side here that I'm shooting, but I also have to be aware of the other enemies around me. So I am focused on the destroyers right now. But when I'm doing this, I'm also keeping in mind of the ships behind the destroyers, like the battleships, because there are some battleships back there. There's also an Admiral Hipper back there, and you can see I'm starting to take fire from them. So immediately I need to get out of here. The Myōkō is not a brawler. You can't, generally speaking anyway, you can't stick around and brawl it out with your enemies, just because you're not going to... you're just not going to be able to do it. Your turrets don't turn fast enough, and you don't have the armor on the side of your ship to protect your citadels to do it. When you're in close range like that, generally speaking, you're going to be firing off your torpedoes, if you have them available, and if you have the firing arc on them available anyway. So you can see, again, taking incoming fire, but I'm angling away all the time. I'm not just driving like down, you know, straight south, for example. I'm going southwest at this time, and I'm trying to just make sure that, more or less, that I can keep my ship perpendicular to the enemy ships to present as small a target as possible. And at the last moment in this case, I had to turn because I need to come around this island and start using it as cover. So I make that slow turn to the starboard side, in between the shots of the the enemy Admiral Hipper. Yeah, I know it all sounds so complicated, but you know, these are just the things that are happening automatically when I'm playing this ship, and I'm struggling to actually think about what I'm doing because it's I just do it unconsciously, to be honest. So at this point in the battle, I mean, yeah, there are some enemy planes, and you'll notice that the AA armament on the Myōkō is adequate enough to defend itself. It's not really going to be a good ship to count on and to rely on for AA coverage. It's a good ship when you are in a group and working in a group with your AA guns to take out enemy planes, but on its own, it can generally speaking, it's only going to be able to defend itself. So I was able to fight off the air attack there. I mean, I did take a few hits. More importantly, though, I didn't take any torpedoes, so that's a pretty big thing for me, because, you know, torpedoes would most likely kill you. So get some shots off there, final shots off there on the Admiral Hipper, and I do manage to finish him off. Again, angling my ship because I've got a Cleveland. Clevelands are incredibly deadly to you when you're in your Myōkō, and it doesn't matter what they're firing, whether they're firing high explosive or armor piercing, they are deadly to you. If they're firing high explosive, obviously they're going to set a bunch of fires to you and you're going to burn out. And if they're firing armor piercing, they might get a lucky shot and start hitting citadels, and then your health will just melt away. So don't underestimate the enemy ships at all, or even ships that are lower tier than you. You're still vulnerable in Myōkō. It's all about just excuse me, playing it smart, I guess. So you can see here as well where the benefit to having the accuracy module on the Myōkō comes into play. You'll notice, you know, the shots I've been putting into the Cleveland there have been all fairly well grouped, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm firing these full salvos or these full broadsides at my enemies. Is I want all of my shells to land more or less in the same spot on the enemy, so that I can just drill right through their armor there and get some citadels. As well, you'll notice that I just fired off torpedoes, so this is great as well, and defensive firing of torpedoes. So I fire the torpedoes, and then I immediately start angling against this Cleveland. You'll notice that the Cleveland is doing really good damage to me. My saving grace in all of this is the accuracy of my cannons and the amount of damage that my cannons can do, not to mention the allies that I have around me, obviously, right? But this is what is saving me, because this Cleveland, you know, just given the opportunity and maybe given another minute or so, he definitely would have finished me off and killed me here. But I'm just lucky enough that, you know, I was able to angle the ship so that the shots coming in bounced off, grazed off, or didn't do as much damage or set a fire like maybe the Cleveland had wanted them to. And that's the biggest, probably the biggest takeaway here in today's video for the Myōkō. If you want to do well in your Myōkō, is to angle your ship. Don't just, you know, go side on to someone and present broadsides. You know, this isn't the age of sail here. We have engines and we can maneuver around, and our turrets do traverse, albeit sort of slow. Use that, right? Maneuver around it. It's just so critical. I mean, the battle here is almost over. We almost won, and you can see as well, like, you know, I didn't do anything spectacular in this battle. More or less stuck to my original strategy of helping my destroyers at sea. The destroyers at sea, you know, passed away, never really managed to cap it. And then with that knowledge, you know, I just sort of pulled back and moved into B, grouped up again with my allies. And that's a big thing as well. Can't be understated in your Myōkō here as well. The ship works really well in conjunction with other ships. If you're able to make yourself a little fleet with some allies that you have around you, you're going to do really well in this ship. Because hopefully, you know, especially if you're with some battleships, hopefully the enemy is going to be focused on the battleships and give you time to start pummeling the enemy with your high explosive or with your armor piercing, depending. Because I like shooting high explosive at enemy battleships at range. That being said, though, you can still get a lot of decent damage done with armor piercing on battleships as well in your Myōkō as well. So hopefully you were able to take some things away from this video. You know, maybe the setup of the Myōkō, how I do it. More importantly, the angling piece on your Myōkō, and keeping in mind that in the Myōkō and the way the turrets are positioned and the traverse speeds involved, you're not always going to have all 5 turrets firing at the target. Like I say, generally speaking, you're going to have 3 turrets firing at the target, with the other 2 turrets still traversing to get into place. But again, you know, the thing that keeps me alive so often in this Myōkō is the fact that I've got some good accuracy because of the modifications. I'm maneuvering and I'm angling. Those are the biggest takeaways that I could give you guys to help you out with your Myōkō. So hopefully that did help you out today and give you some tips as well when you're playing the Myōkō, and general tips for cruisers as well. Hope you did enjoy the video. You know, leave any comments you have for me down there in the comment section. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you liked the video today. And if you're not a subscriber and you are thinking about subscribing, I would recommend hitting the subscribe button as well. Thank you so much for your time today, and as always, folks, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.